Bigpod.
What?
I heard that, we might have actually done some, actual journalistic things.
Yes, we have.
Well, that's good because, we're going into a bit of a rabbit hole topic. We might accidentally turn into some rants.
Yes.
Just a warning. And also, I looked through, all of our topics today. And technically, every single one of these topics pertain to security. So I guess this is an actual security episode.
Yes.
Cue the music, because every bit, I like it. I actually do like listening to that track. I play it on loop sometimes. Hey guys, welcome to No Tux Allowed. I'm your host, Josh, and today I'm wearing a beautiful white shirt. And Bigpod, your shirt is black and it's got really tiny text I can't read.
Yeah. It's some branding thing.
Oh, of course, it's always brand names with you. You're just that kind of person, just wearing brands.
Yeah.
The shame. Lighted. My jacket says Dickies on it. So, Bigpod, I had a whole bunch of topics today that, I put up into our show docket yesterday. But then we came around to today, and I changed them all because everything today just seems like so much more interesting to talk about. Because, heaven forbid,
Yes.
The very first thing I looked at today was Ubuntu proposing a change.
Yeah.
Now, this is for the Ubuntu 26.10 release cycle. The next version of Ubuntu after this one. The one that comes out next month. Actually, I think in less than 2 weeks. But
yeah.
For Ubuntu 26.10, Juliank posts on the Ubuntu discourse. He says that Ubuntu Ubuntu systems supporting secureboot using grub will be dropping support for basically every single file system except for ext4, FAT, and ISO 9660.
Yeah. I don't know what this exactly is they're dropping support for, since it says a lot of parsers for file systems. So I do not know what exactly grub requires from them and how will this affect your systems. But a lot of file systems, with exception of ext, FAT, and ISO 9660, which is squashfs. That to me sounds really bad.
Well, here's another
very much foot gun.
Here's another kicker, right? They're also removing JPEG and PNG support.
Good. What's the point of having JPEGs and PNGs in your boot manager environment? Most of the time, you shouldn't be even seeing it.
Are you saying that you shouldn't see a giant Ubuntu logo in your grub menu?
Yeah. Because most of the time, you shouldn't be seeing your grub menu.
I'm certain that there's a certain guy named Matt that might disagree with you because he just realized today that you can theme grub, and I know he listens to the show every now and then. But anyways, it goes farther too. They're also removing some partition table protocols like part_Apple for those Apple computers, as well as part GPT.
No. They are retaining part GPT.
Yeah, they're retaining GPT and MSOD. But they're removing support for Apple devices.
For Apple partition tables. So if you have a dual boot laptop, like an old Intel Mac, you cannot dual boot anymore.
Yep. And they're also removing support for LVM, MD RAID, except for RAID 1, and Luke's encrypted disks.
That sounds bad.
Well, specifically the last one there for Luke's encrypted disks, because I believe that there are some certain European countries that have it as a requirement for, work-related systems.
Yeah.
And, of course, they're also dropping ZFS, which kind of adds some question marks to me because, they made a big deal when they started including ZFS in Ubuntu.
Yeah.
And
again, I do not know how this will affect booting from those things, because again, I don't know what kind of relationship these things have to the file systems they're booting.
Right? Now, here's the best part, right? I read through like the replies to this. Obviously, there's a Conan Kudo right there. He's otherwise known as Neil Gampa in more professional sense. But he's questioning the removal of btrfs specifically. Well, I mean, he's a Fedora guy, so of course he would be asking this. But he mentions that the btrfs parser is a read-only file system driver that's actively supported by upstream developers. As in, they're supporting this in grub.
I think I now know what kind of things those file system stuff does in grub. So yeah, without that you probably won't be able to boot to.
Yeah,
based on specific features.
Well, let's talk about this here. Let's talk about like the boot process for Linux. Well, the boot process for grub into Linux, right? Grub is the very first thing your computer goes when it says, "Hey, I want to boot a system."
No.
Well,
wrong.
That's true. It boots the UEFI.
So first it's UEFI, then it's stage 1 bootloader, then it's stage 2 bootloader, and then stage 3 is grub. And that's when we talk about grub and all that fun stuff.
Well, grub is the thing that calls upon the Linux kernel. That's typically on your...
Not exactly. Grub is the thing that calls upon the Linux kernel that is in rootfs, which then boots Linux kernel.
Yeah, something like that.
It's a fun thing.
It's complicated, and also you can modify that if you really want to.
Yeah.
But generally that's how it works, right? Which is why a lot of times when you're using a full disk encrypted system, you'll see like your /boot partition is probably not encrypted because it's got to be able to identify that, and then it's the kernel that it's then the kernel that calls upon the modules necessary for unlocking the encrypted disk. Well, so we've already decided that /boot cannot be encrypted. Well, not feasibly. It could be like you could do like hardware encryption level things, but we're talking about purely software right now.
Yeah.
Now, what grub does with these parsers is, hey, what if say somebody wants to boot like not Linux but like booting straight into Bash because they just need to be able to do that for some reason. I need to be able to scrub these other various file systems. Well, Ubuntu apparently only wants to support realistically ext4 and snaps in this use case, which leads to like this whole conversation here. And of course, there's somebody that comes in here that says that raises the question of why not just switch to system deboot because it's a smaller bootloader, which makes it easier for you to maintain. Because the assumption that the comments have on here is purely maintenance related. Bear in mind, this is the snapshot preview for the eventual next LTS release, so Ubuntu 28.04, which is, I believe, has promised of upwards of about 10 years of support if you're willing to pay for it. So it does kind of make sense to make it easier to support for those 10 years. So I can sort of understand like having a smaller code base to maintain, but system deboot comes with some gotchas because it's UEFI only, and it turns out that there's a lot of places that don't use UEFI yet.
Yeah, but let's be clear. Usage of UEFI is a lot better these days than anything else. And if you're using some of the more eclectic setups, especially at home, you really need to use UEFI, like multi-boot, stuff like that.
Yeah, that's true. Lighted, you can do UEFI on a grub system, but it's so much easier when you're not doing that.
Yeah.
So and of course they're also they also want to remove support for LVM, which is also questionable because, you know, in my world, working with, you know, people that are actually system administrators, they actually like the idea of LVM, or, you know, some kind of complicated file system that, you know, does really cool things, rather than, you know, just having plain ext4 on a disk.
Yeah, but LVM really isn't a file system. It's, as the name suggests, a volume manager. It literally just obfuscates layer between the actual file system and the OS. In some ways, it's a pain.
Yeah, in some ways, it's a pain in the ass. But, you know, I like the idea. I like in a professional setting, like say if I was a system administrator, I'd like to be able to at least make sure that, you know, my client systems are at least on an are making use of LVM, if anything, so I can snapshot their system before I eventually nuke it.
Well, yes, but there are other ways of snapshotting that these companies use, especially like full disk snapshotting, which are very much separate from LVM and stuff like that.
I guess that's true. So, I do kind of wonder, like, what their actual reasoning is. They give some reasonings. I feel like the guy that puts up this reason, it's still an evolving discussion. At this point, it's a 12-hour-old discussion. We got it linked in the show notes, so maybe a couple of you might want to hop in there and just to ask, going like, why don't you want to support ZFS? Because I'll be honest with you, of all the enterprise distributions, Ubuntu is the only one that actually supplies ZFS by default. Yeah. Well, actually, it's not the default, but it is an option. I think they still mark it as experimental.
I'm not sure if they still keep it in with the new installer.
Yeah.
I know it never was in the server installer.
Yeah, that said, if you do not want to use secureboot, you can use all these other file systems fine. It's only when secureboot is enabled.
Yeah.
Which, I'll be honest with you, Bigpod, people should probably actually make use of secureboot because it actually is not a terrible idea at the end of the day. So anyways, let's move on to our next topic. And that is, you know, Meta and Google losing a lawsuit. Supposedly. Well, they've been found negligent, which is effectively a loss in this lawsuit. So, in New Mexico, a Los Angeles jury, which, yes, a Los Angeles jury in New Mexico. Or no, that's a different lawsuit. So, a Los Angeles jury handed a ruling to Google and Meta, both, in the fact that, you know, hey, these social media platforms are actually addictive, and they know it. This means that Meta and Google will both have to pay out $3 million in compensation with damages, with Meta bearing 70% of the total cost. And this is because, you know, the plaintiff, who is, I believe that the only name we got in here is Kelly, or Kaylee. Yeah. Cites that she was she was suffering from anxiety, depression, body dysmorphia, and other conditions during her youth. And she believes that the cause of those feelings were from Instagram and YouTube. Whereas lawyers kind of argued that, you know, a disruptive home life and parent divorce was more to blame. I'll be honest with you. As somebody that's seen people go through very similar situations, it's kind of both.
Yeah, and as somebody who has gone through some of that, it's also youth. Like, it's those years are a big problem.
Yep. And of course, there was very compelling evidence presented during the trial that showed that, yes, these platforms are in fact addictive.
Yeah, of course.
And, you know, there's been multiple researchers that have published studies showing that, hey, these platforms are in fact addictive. in fact, if you're watching us on YouTube, if you look at the right side where your recommended videos are, tell me that there's not something related to a technology podcast showing on the right side. If you're on desktop, at least. If you're on a mobile client, it's probably underneath. So,
probably at the end of the day, these platforms are made for you to stay on them,
right? So,
yeah.
We've got a verdict here. Lighted is subject to appeal, so there is probably going to be appealed because at the end of the day, these companies will, rather than accept a defeat, they'll just keep suing and keep appealing until people just quit tired of dealing with them. But thanks for giving us a ruling, telling us things that we already knew. Thank you, legal department. So, and how's that security news? Well, I mean, it's not really security, but it could be security. It's like mental security. To move on here, to update a topic that we spoke about last week, dealing with age verification laws. We've come to a pull request in Systemd, adding a birth date field to JSON user records in UserDB. Now, Systemd uses this tool called LoginD to manage user accounts and user permissions, because Systemd does have the capability of running at user level for services as well. So it's got to be able to authenticate that, hey, this service is being ran by this user. So that's what that, and LoginD is also does like other things too, because it's a Systemd utility. It's going to do more than one thing. But this PR just adds this UserDB file already contains like the email address, real name, location, birthday, or the things that show up when you type in the add user command, and it pops up with all those questions. That's stored in this file. Well, there are also he proposed that there is a birth date being added to that same field. That way, in the event this dbus protocol and this XDD desktop portal protocol goes through, they can reference this field. Now, this already did get merged. It's already there. But because it's age verification being added to an open source project, people could not leave this alone. So,
they got angry at drunk people.
Oh, of course they did. And, we mentioned this last week. Don't be talking to the open source developers for doing the things that they have to do. Well, they talk to the open source developers. And, it quickly became a mess. And there have been so many people. A
giant mess.
There have been so many people kicked off of the Systemd mailing list, banned from discussion from like I believe that there's a Systemd discourse forum that they were posting into, or a discourse forum somewhere that they've been kicked off of, and there's been a lot of comments showing up here as well in just the GitHub, to the point where Lennart Pottering got involved, who is the project leader for Systemd, as well as other people getting involved. And of course,
before we continue, I have to say something. This will be people will hate this, what I'm going to say. But reality is a lot of distro maintainers will go through and make these necessary changes to comply with the laws. Very simply because many of them either live in California or have to travel to California,
or they're trying to sell product in California.
Yes, which means getting hit by at minimum $7,000 fine per infraction, which even if you have 100 users and 10% of them are children, is $70,000 of actual pay you have to pay. Many of them don't have that kind of money, so they're gonna try and protect themselves.
Lighted, we also have Jeremy from System 76 showing up in this thread too, where he says that they've been in talks with legislators. Now, in their case, they've been talking with Colorado legislators because that's where System 76 is. So, they got in there, they started talking about it, and of course, they're working on amendments to the Colorado bill that might just give open source projects, a wave and a pass. Bear in mind, the Colorado bill is a little bit more stringent than the California bill. So, we've got that going on. We don't know if the California law will be changed because we don't know if any legislators are talking with any developers or anybody reasonable. But we've got that going on. Bear in mind, if you're a resident of a state or a nation that is passed such a law or is working on such a law, contact your legislature. Don't even bother putting a comment in our YouTube channel because I'll be honest with you, I don't want to have to deal with that conversation. Because you're talking to the wrong people.
Yeah,
that's really what it is. So, that's just a quick topic on that. But let's talk about more failures by the U.S. government. Because, Bigpod, I know you're a big fan of the U.S. government, and I'm stuck with it. So we got to talk about it.
Yeah.
So, just earlier today, Brendan Car from the Federal Communications Commission. This is the federal body that regulates basically anything electronic communications in the United States.
Related.
Yeah. Yep. So, basically everything that is electronic these days. But he came out and said that, hey, today, the FCC took action to safeguard Americans and the communication networks we rely on by adding consumer routers produced in foreign countries to the agency's covered list. Now, what this list entails means that if you're on the list, you're not allowed to sell the product because it's blocked by the FCC. Now, this is consumer-grade routers. So, Netlink, TP-Link, Linksys.
Potentially Unify, but...
Potentially Unify, yeah.
We don't know how they get classified.
That's
At
true.
least that's what I've been reading.
That's true. Unify is a weird one. It is an American company, but... It doesn't produce...
Technically speaking, they don't sell routers to consumers.
Yeah.
They sell routers to businesses and not typical consumers.
Yeah. Now, bear in mind, I did some due diligence on this. And I did, some quick... I did some Googling because, I want to use that term. That way it becomes a general term. That way Google loses trademark to its own name. That'd just be hilarious. But I did some Googling, and I came up with the idea that, hey, there's only one company that produces a thing that we call a router in the continental United States.
Actually, I believe there are two.
Well, there's one for sure. I know that much.
And I know one, and I don't think you're thinking of what I'm thinking.
Oh, what are you thinking?
So go ahead.
Oh,
tell me.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll tell you that there's one router manufacturer, and this is purely because they make these things that we call routers for the U.S. military, and the U.S. military can only buy U.S. made equipment. That is Cisco.
And I learned that Starlink router is made in U.S., specifically in Texas.
Oh, is this another competition ban for Elon?
I don't know. I think this is more on the moving production to U.S. thing.
Right.
Than trying to beat competition.
Well, anyways, I followed the links that are posted in the Hacker News article, and I found the list of approved devices. Bigpod, this all looks like drone equipment. Because we got the Sci-Fly Aviation Sci-Fly Q12 drone system. That's obvious. The Mobilicom Skyhopper Series M-band tactical data link software, ICE, and OS3 security. Don't really know what that is. The Scout DI Scout 137 drone system. The Verge Arrow X1 drone system. That's it.
The Skyhopper thing is I believe some sort of a more of an it's a software-defined radio, I think.
That could be entirely possible.
Software-defined radio data link, I believe.
Yeah. That said,
again for drones.
Yeah. So I did some more due diligence, and I found like the official documentation that I've got linked here. Now, we got a public notice and a fact sheet. I know it's great. So the public notice is like the official documentation that bans these. Now, the fact sheet is where it gets interesting, right?
Really?
Now, yeah, because the fact sheet says that hey, everything that's on the covered device list, which is basically everything, that is currently for sale in the United States can still be for sale. They just can't introduce.
Okay.
They just cannot introduce brand new models. So that router that's on Walmart, you can still buy. You just can't get the newer version of it because it hasn't been released yet. And they can only receive security updates until March 2027.
So a year.
Yep, we got a year to figure this out.
Wow. That is bad. I feel like it's problematic.
Now, I've heard reports that one of the founders of TP-Link is currently working on a citizenship, so that way TP-Link can get the golden graces of approval. So there's hope in that space, but I'll be honest with you. I would like to be able to buy a router when I need to buy a router.
Well, I don't care. I get my routers from my ISP. I don't care what it is. And when it comes to anything else, well, I buy Ubiquiti now.
Well, here's the thing.
I don't care.
Here's the thing about ISP routers, right? They're technically consumer grade routers.
I know. And now they're all gonna be produced in America. It's gonna be great.
Somehow, some way. Who knows? We might just classify China as America. That's one way to get around exemptions because that's what we did for Canada and Mexico, for some of their industries. Yeah, they're not a foreign country. They're just an extension of the American trade zone. We'll find out. But anyways, I'm curious if you have some feedback for us because nobody really sent us an email at all in the last week or last month. It does make me sad. I mean, we've got like random guys like giving us requests to make guest appearances on the shows. We've got that much. Don't really know what they do. I'm hoping that they explain what they do when they actually talk to us.
Yeah.
But I'm certain that there's a community member that has some thoughts on this. And if you all want to get in a big giant argument for it too, we have a link for a public Discord service because people use Discord. Or if you don't want to use Discord because some age verification thing, we have a Matrix server available for you as well. That said, if you want to use Matrix, that's on you. You don't have to use it. We just got it there because we think it's cool. And of course, if you would like to self-host our wonderful adventures, like self-hosting a Matrix server, which has been quite the adventure for you, Mr. Bigpod.
Yep.
You can go to patreon.com/notuxallowed. And I'm certain there that if you go in there and give us approximately $234 per month, we can actually self-host everything, hardware included.
Yeah.
Because, I literally just spec'd out a $5,000 server setup that costs with electrical costs and some other costs. Oh, internet. And I calculated how much we need to charge to pay that back within 5 years so we can do it all over again. And that's the price that I came up with. That's it. You don't have to give us $234, but if you pay us $234, I'll love you. You will also get a higher quality audio feed because we can just do that. And of course, sometimes in your special sauce audio feed, you will get a pre-show or extra bonus content.
Yeah.
Because Bigpod, I've got some rambling thoughts. And I've been seriously considering just posting that as bonus content on the pre-show.
Really?
Yes, I really have. But of course, I haven't done that yet because time is a factor. I apologize. But of course, if you would like to reach out to us individually, we have our own YouTube channels. And we also show up on Mastodon every now and then too. I show up way more frequently than you, Mr. Bigpod. I never see you post anything. It's almost like you just don't exist.
It's almost like I don't use social media that much.
Or that. I mean, technically, Matrix counts as social media, and you talk to me on Matrix all the time.
Yeah, besides like chats, I don't really do social media. Well, I have bunch of accounts. I mostly read and that's it.
Well, you see, I guess that's a good thing because heaven forbid it turns out they're addictive platforms, and the less you use them, the better.
Great.
At least for now. Well, anyways, that's it for the show. We'll see you guys next week.
Goodbye.